pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everybody to a regular session of Goldendale City Council for September 19th, 2022. It's almost over. We have a council except for Lauren, and we need a motion to excuse Lauren. He sent me an email today that he wasn't feeling well, so he's staying home.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to excuse Lauren Baker from attendance at City Council on September 19th, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We don't have a public hearing tonight, but we have an agenda and then a consent agenda to approve. We need a motion on the agenda.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Thanks. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda for this session. All in favor?
Aye.
For the consent agenda, a separate motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Are there questions or comments before we vote? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. We don't have a presentation scheduled tonight. We'll go to department reports. And our first report will be by Director of Public Works. Pat,
So the public works crew, as I reported last time, the crack sealing machine broke down. They've got one return, so they will be starting crack sealing. They're also completing some white paint crosswalk and some other street markings, and then they will go into painting the curbs yellow where the no parking zones are. Over the last month, they've put down 40 tons of asphalt repairing potholes, and the last few weeks they've been working on several water breaks. And those water lines these are the older ones that are breaking that we've put in for a loan, a Public Works Trust Fund loan application to replace them all next year if we're successful in getting that loan. And that will put the city's water system in great shape at that time. Other than that, on the city administrator side, mainly working on land use decisions and an update on 18th Street, the subdivision project up there. They should be completing their concrete work, and then that should be coming back to City Council for final approval, hopefully in the next council meeting or the council meeting after. And then Fire Street, they plan on pouring concrete next week and finishing out the sidewalks. Once that's completed, they will start forming the approaches back behind those, so they're a smooth transition from the private driveways and private roads back onto the road. We did meet with the group that was here last time. They are all content at this point, and waiting to the project to finish to, then we can address any concerns they may have at the finish point. But I think a lot of their concerns will be addressed once it's finished and they see the finished product.
thank you. Yes.
In our discussion here, you voiced some concern about the timeline.
Yeah, when land use decisions come in, they're on a timeline. So we have 5 days to review the application under state law to determine if it's complete or non-complete. And once we determine that application complete, the clock starts. And usually that clock's 90 days. But in this case, your code says 30 days on a short plat. That is an extreme quick turnaround. And we have to do notification under type 2 pursuant to our code for comments. We can't meet that timeline. So one code's saying we have to provide public notice, and by the time we do that and get it in the paper and get our determination so they can review the determination and comment on it, there's no time left for us to even consider public comments before we have to move forward with the approval process.
When that doesn't give enough notice to the public to get their comments in as
No.
well.
Yeah. The other thing is on the backside, usually to appeal a decision under Washington State law, LUPA, it's 28 days. Most cities have a 30-day appeal process, that once a decision is approved or denied, that process can be appealed within 30 days to the city council. We have nothing specifying a deadline on appeal. So that's something we need to correct too. You can't just leave it, it can be appealed, 2 years from now. That's unreasonable. Usually that appeal process is in 30 days. Because it doesn't say an appeal deadline, I'm just gonna use LUPA, and, which is Washington State law on land use appeals.
How difficult would it be to make recommendation for updates and changes to an ordinance to match?
Well, we can make some quick changes to that to close that problem, but we probably should go through that code in more depth after that period, just to make sure everything's falling in line with the time that we need to make sure that we get appropriate notice to the public, appropriate response time for any comments they may have on the project, and then after that, then we have time to adjust or write our staff report, and then bring that staff report forward if needed to city council. In this case, the one is, it's a type 2 decision, not all short plats or type 2, depending if there's any dedication. So type 2 means it's an administrative decision. But if there's any land use dedication, like a right-of-way or an easement, then that kicks it into a type 3, and that must come before city council.
I would say since we know of the issues, maybe we can get those taken care of sooner than later, at least for any future construction.
Okay, I'll start working on that.
Thanks, Pat. Yes, Steve.
Would you suggest possibly the ordinance committee?
Yeah, that would be great if we could get together with the ordinance committee and go over the issues. Who's all on the ordinance committee?
Myself, Lauren, and Michael.
Okay.
There's a lot of work to do on our ordinances, not just this.
Yeah.
This is, because Pat has already identified, recognized
He's
some real shortcomings.
finding a lot of things that we need to clean up.
Clean up.
That's a big help.
Yeah.
And I know it would be a long process, but I think the steps that are identified that easily, we can fix now, and it's a long process before we get where we need to be.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks, Pat.
You bet, thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Sergeant Mike Smith.
All right, I guess I'm up. So we have our new hire here, Cameron Howe, going up, meet the council. He's been here a couple weeks. He's got sworn in by the chief before he left.
Cameron, can you get back a little?
Last time the
Perfect.
chief talked about he wouldn't be in the academy until January. We got some good news. He's gonna start the academy October 10th.
Oh, that's
And
excellent.
he'll be done the 21st, so we'll have him back a little sooner,
That's-
which is great news for our department. We're still looking for the number spot that's filled, or not filled, so we're looking for lateral, hopefully. We can get somebody that's here, but Cameron's so far so good. We can get him going to the academy and get him back, and he's grew up here, so if you get a chance, see him around before he goes to the academy, meet him, great guy, so, all right. Yeah.
Thank you.
He's a little shy, so he's good with
I don't think so.
No, he's a good guy, and so that helps us with our staffing right now. We're with Officer Kelsey right now, and so that's gonna start the FTO this month and get him a little bit of head start before he goes to the academy. So Like I said, we're looking forward to getting him back in the end of February there. We're still, calls are still kind of busy.
Right.
It slowed down for a little bit, now it's kind of picked back up, a lot of little, you know, thefts and things like that still. We're still just kind of hitting it as hard as we can. Right now, we're dealing with some parking issues. I know I talked to Pat about some different ordinances, and hopefully we can get that with the ordinance committee to maybe change some of the ordinances of the parks and the homeless population that's kind of coming in lately, that we're trying to figure out how to address some issues with that, but we're moving good progress, so far so good, so.
I'm hoping when they realize we're watching some of that behavior, they'll.
It is, and it's good to have the public, we've had a lot more calls, so I mean, our calls for service are going up because people are being more diligent, you know, seeing something that's suspicious, calling it in so we can ID people. I mean, there's still a lot of people that, you know, are new to the community, and so people keep just kind of showing up, and that some of it's a transit, you know, buses going from Hood River all the way up to Yakima, and so we're kind of that in-between spot that for some reason keeps getting dropped off, and so, but, I mean, the stores, I know Dave's been real help, you know, getting video footage of people, little thefts and stuff, and so we've been trying to stay on top of it the best we can, so.
Good. Any questions or comments for Mike? Yes.
Once again, this, I reiterate the importance of addressing our codes
Right.
and ordinances. Will go a long ways to help law enforcement
Exactly.
in this respect especially, if not a whole lot of them. But that's what we need. We need the rules, and we need them to be specific and easily understood. And again, I'm sounding like a broken record,
No.
but I'm gonna keep it up as far as
Some of those
codes
ordinances,
and ordinances.
some of them
These
didn't
are-
work.
These are the rules that the community lives by.
Yep.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah,
And if they're all messed up or they're out of date, we're in big trouble. We can do nothing. And we're in a serious situation these days regarding the movement of people, big time. And so far, we've not been affected too bad, but
But
it's
it's
headed
beginning.
our way. It's headed our way.
It is. It
Mayor,
absolutely-
excuse me, Mayor, maybe Pat, could you come up with some dates, a couple dates? We might have the ordinance meeting sometime,
Yeah,
whatever. We probably need several of them because we're all busy, but hopefully we can find one.
And the last thing we want to do is get behind that schedule flow of, you know, people moving in.
Yeah.
No, you want to be ahead of
I
that.
think we all agree we don't want it to be Portland or,
Yep.
you know, the problems bigger cities have. It's kind of, as officers, we look at it as, you know, it's a special community. So it's one of those things that we're, you know, diligently trying to, you know, move people in what we can within our guidelines and laws. But any ordinances that will tighten those restrictions would help us immensely, so.
Very good.
possibly this Friday, if that works for you, the committee.
I'm available after when?
I think I'm gonna be in Portland,
Okay.
unless I get back in time, maybe.
Well, we'll see if we can set a, I'm gonna be busy with other committee meetings this week, Tuesday and then Wednesday with Dave and,
Okay.
and I think Steve's gonna be there. And then Thursday I have other appointments.
Yeah,
So if Friday doesn't work, I'll have to be next week sometime.
okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I think I'm gonna be pretty well committed to Portland all day Friday. So, yeah, next week we can,
So next week I'm available after 6, except for the 29th and 30th.
So Thursday and Friday, next week.
Yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
You're not available?
I'm not available.
Yeah.
But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday after 6.
How
After
about
6.
Monday?
Monday after 6.
yeah,
Yep.
that works with me.
That works.
So Monday, 6 o'clock.
Monday at 6 or earlier, or what time do you guys want to do it?
At 6, and I'll be here just a few minutes after.
Okay.
That would be this.
Right. Yeah, that'd be-
6, I might schedule. So, just a quick question, you want me to bring the, I think it was the park ordinance is one we talked about today, any other ordinances?
The park and parking.
Park,
Is it possible, Pat? I know, like, different people see different ordinance throughout the city, including Public Works. Is there a way to maybe inquire from all the employees if they're aware of any ordinance that they've dealt with? That doesn't mean we have to fix it, but at least we can get their feedback
yeah, I think it would be.
and suggestions for
important.
fixing it would be even better.
I think it would be important, particularly when we're talking about parking in park, to have one of the, if the chief can't be there, one of the sergeants there to attend the meeting so that they can get their input on what's gonna work and what's gonna not work. One of the big conversations we had today is we don't wanna put them in a situation where they're trying to enforce civil law, because that can put personal liability on them, so we need to make sure whatever we come up with, to run it through our attorney and let them look at it and maybe tweak it to work, to achieve the goals of the city council and to make sure the police department is protected, or the employees are, so that's pretty important. And then we'll do parking and then, short plat update.
We may do that on a regular schedule once that committee will decide with Pat what works best. Goldendale Fire Department.
Don't have much to report. We've got 4 firefighters participating. Like the Pig Bowl this year is doing law enforcement versus firefighters. So we've got 4 firefighters going up to participate in that. They're going to be taking the command truck and towing asthma along with it, and then possibly another apparatus to represent the department. And then we are at, I forgot to check, but I think around 127 calls for the year. We've had quite a few medical that we've responded with KCEMS, and we've had a few wildland fires that we've responded with Rural 7, as well as just the normal calls. So, staying busy.
Good.
And always have to say, we're still looking for more volunteers, fire, medical, whatever you're interested in. We've got spots.
Good.
That's all it's up.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll go on now to council business, and we'll begin with the first item, smart streetlight management and maintenance options, and Pat Munyon will present that.
So when we met with, on Zoom with the company, there was discussion about what would happen if they went out of business, like the previous light company were, that was hired to install the lights and manage them. So they've given us 4 options here. I'll just kind of give a brief rundown of them. So basically what it comes down to is, there's a couple ways we can do this. We can, if they can reassign it or we can select a third party, they can enter into a contract with them and then just, that third party would finish out our contract. Or they could come in and they would change all the OH and void to photo sensor, just like you would have with the lights. They're either on in the dark or on, or, lights are on in the dark or off during the day. Or they will provide us an option to, at that time, we would enter into an agreement with them. It's called a tri-party escrow service agreement, where we would get that technology and it would be placed for us to use, and we would be the user of it. It would basically, in some ways belong to us, but not belong to us. We could only use it for ourselves and management of our lights, and use that software for as long as we wanted, but we couldn't ever sell that software or give it, share that information with any outsource. So them are kind of the options. None of those decisions on that need to be made tonight. That's just if that situation doesn't occur where they're bought out or they reassign it or they file bankruptcy and no longer in existence, then at that time we would make that decision. The council would make that decision on how they would want to proceed at that time. Other than that, we would recommending, staff would recommend approval of the authorizing the mayor to move forward with the agreement.
Questions or comments?
I have a question. The equipment and software that would run this, is that operated by somebody else?
They monitor it, yes.
So they're just like a vendor of that product, or?
Well, though they own the software that's managing it.
Okay.
Okay, so what they'll come in for that $58,000 is they're gonna come in and, or send us the material to change all.
Right. But the manufacturer of that product is that them, or are they a vendor of that product?
That's a good question.
So,
I believe all I know is we provide the product. I'm sure they're having it outsourced like any other business.
'cause I'm just wondering if they are a vendor and they run the program and all that, are there other vendors out there that would have the same software and same capabilities in case
Yeah, if they were.
someone
if
else
they
can
were
pick it
gonna-
up?
If they were gonna transfer it, whether they were bought out or they reassign it to that software would go with that new firm and they can manage it.
So it's
Or
not-
we could have the option to, with that new firm, to update the software to anything they may have, but they would still be, we would have to negotiate that with them, but,
It's not proprietary to them. Is it?
well, it is somewhat proprietary. Not everything is proprietary. I'm not a tech guy, so I'm doing the best I can to explain it.
That's okay.
Yeah, so some of it is, some of it isn't, but they own the patent on it.
Okay.
So that kind of makes it where we're limited on our options here. But if they were to discontinue and we selected going with the tri-party escrow system, then it would come over to us and we would become a party of use of that software for as long as we wanted and to manage our system. The one thing that's really nice about having them manage it is, well, a couple things that will change. Right now, because of how the communication's set up, if one communicator goes out, the whole bank, the lights goes out. It won't work that way. It'll be an individual light. If an individual light goes out, that's just that individual light. But they're monitoring so closely that they can tell if the amperage has changed on a particular bulb, which indicates it's starting to burn out, and they will get on the phone and call us and notify us of that, and they will immediately send that part out. The other thing that's really nice is if we're running into trouble in the field, or we hire an electrician that's having trouble in the field with some of their technology, or even the materials that they're providing us, they will get on the phone with them. There's no additional charge, and talk them through how to install it and how to check it and make sure it's functioning properly. The other thing that they can do at any given moment, let's say, the police department was doing a drug bust someplace and they wanted the lights to go dark so that the place that they were watching or getting ready to take over or enter, they didn't want people seeing them coming. They could actually call up, talk to them, and they would shut that bank of lights down immediately for them. actually can dim the lights if they want, or brighten the lights on a simple phone call.
That might be good also for the observatory.
This Diane is a device management and management firm. That's why they do it the way they're doing it so closely. I think it will benefit us.
Now, the price we have here, the 58,000, that price includes one of those three options that you discussed that were available to us for the in-case situation? Or was that gonna cost us some more money?
No, it's not, according to everything I read in them, I actually called them and asked them that question, it's not supposed to cost us any more money. That's their commitment to us, saying it, because they're pretty confident that they're gonna be around, they've been around for 20-some years. They just, this was a question brought up with Lauren, which was a
Yeah.
very good question. And, they sent another one back, but I said, didn't feel that it really addressed the committee, which Steve was on that committee. It didn't really address the committee's clear answer and option that they wanted there, was to make sure that if the city choose to continue with that software, we could do that. And we were concerned about that because if we went to other technology to monitoring parking, that would be a huge investment for us. And then if that software disappears, then all that investment's gone.
Yeah, definitely, we wanna make sure we cover our basis on that, thank you.
Anything else, Steve?
Now, this agreement that we're going to enter into here, does it consist of all four of these items?
It has all the language, and I provided the section with every, in there, and a copy of the tri thing. So,
But it does consist of
Yeah.
all four of,
yeah, where it says C, a section, that's inside the contract. That's where that information's coming from.
okay.
We would have to pick one of those.
You would have to pick one of those.
Oh, well, that's what I was asking. This agreement, it doesn't include all of these. We've got to choose one of these.
That's correct.
For in case. they
But you
go
don't
out.
have to choose that today.
We can choose it once we come to that.
If they fail or reassign or they're bought out, then that's when you would make that decision and enter into the tri-party agreement.
But we'd still, at that point though, we'd still only have one of these options to choose.
Yes. But you gotta fail if you don't wanna save, let's say you don't wanna continue with the technology. So they're gonna come in at their expense and replace all the noise and change it back out to just on and off light sensor.
But we want the additional capacity.
We want the technology.
Right.
Yeah, we would never wanna do that option where it would.
I was just saying worst
Yeah.
case scenario. right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
These are
They,
options.
they provide us lots of options and directions they go. They also provided us a list, and they already provide us one currently, an example list of other people that can take this technology on and continue that. And they would be, in their agreement, when they were sold out, they would have to honor the remaining portion of our contract.
Okay. So we have to choose one of these four options,
If they go away, yes.
if they go
That's
away.
only, yeah.
But if we approve the service contract agreement, it covers all of this?
Yes. So number one's covered by section 9.15.
Okay,
Number 3 is covered by 2.61.
right.
And attached is the tri-party escrow service agreement is attached to this contract. It's not signed because we can't exercise that until they dissolve.
Okay, so this is our fail-safe.
This is our fail-safe. Yeah.
Okay.
That's,
Last question.
yep.
The price, is that a one-time price, annual? Is there annual service fees?
There is no
Any
annual
thought?
service fee that I could see, and it's right here, it's $58,880. The only thing that would be a service fee on is parts and material. So
Any
if
repairs
something
beyond?
burns out,
Mhm.
then we would be responsible for that.
Beyond the warranty of,
Yeah. This is supposed to cover us, I believe, I'd have to go back and look, but I think 5 years.
I think so.
Yeah,
which is about average.
but there'll be some extra costs involved and we have to install these.
Installation.
Yeah,
Hire
yeah,
somebody
that's
to
gonna
install
be any like company,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, we're gonna have to buy the light bulbs and broken product from them. You know, because things do wear out.
Well, yeah.
And then we're gonna have to pay them to have them installed, if we can't install them ourselves.
But in our discussions, it sounded like it's not rocket science, really. I mean, a local electrician, licensed electrician could possibly take that on, or,
Oh, yeah, yeah, they're, an electric, local electrician would have no problem with
okay.
that. I mean, I can change a light bulb.
There you go.
It's hard to believe, but I can do it.
And I can hold the ladder.
It is government works, you need at least 3 supervisors.
Two that turn the ladder, like I'm sure it, so.
Right. I'll need some help on the ladder. Okay.
Any other comments or questions? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll move to, lost my verbiage there. Motion to approve the service contract agreement between the City of Goldendale and Diane Technologies in the amount of up to $58,880.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the service contract agreement between the City of Goldendale and Diane Technologies in the amount of $58,880. If there's not further comment or questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. Vote is unanimous. The next item I'll present, and this has to do with the employment agreement that has been done for Sandy Wells, city clerk and treasurer. She was a union employee before being appointed clerk treasurer. Now she's in an exempt thing, and it requires this type of contract. This is a standard a contract, but it helps to have everything in order, medical, retirement, all that, so it's all laid out and understood. It's an important part of any contract with an employee. If there's questions or comments, we'll take those.
Mayor, I move to approve the city clerk and treasurer employment agreement.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the city clerk treasurer employment agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Congratulations, Sandy.
Vote unanimous.
She's doing a good job, so.
She does an awesome job.
Doing an excellent job. Way beyond good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Thank you. The next item is affordable housing, and I'll begin the discussion on this. Like probably every small city, if not large city, has housing issues and housing difficulties right now. And this appeared from the MRSC, that's our advisory, state advisory group. They're very, very skilled and helpful for us. And this talks about the different types of housing, things that are needed, how we approach it, what might happen. And the reason I wanted to present this is more because we need to be thinking of it. I'm not asking for any action tonight at all, but we need to have this because we're going to have demands further and further. We already have demands for housing. We have one, at least one, if not, we have several construction projects already going on, but that will not necessarily fulfill the need whenever we get to some of these larger projects that bring a lot of employees. And so this gives you all the different types of options. There's a number of things that's possibly putting housing on smaller lots. And if you look around Goldendale, we do have some vacant lots that are small. It's just the way it was laid out. We have a need for duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, and we've had a number of duplexes built. There's some very, very nice ones already, quite a few. There's also the possibility and the background to how we would work with either townhouses, cottage housing, or courtyard housing. And the cottage housing and courtyard housing is really nice because that's where you have a green area in the middle and different cottages or houses scattered within that green area. It's very, very positive. What we're trying to do right now is fill the vacant areas of this city before we go to try to expand anything beyond our own boundaries.
Mayor,
Yes,
is there a housing authority in Goldendale?
there's one for the county or the Skamania. You serve on it, I believe.
Well, yes, there's the Mid-Columbia, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that or another housing authority that, you know, a lot of these, how you want to set them up, if it's going to be, if we're going to stay in affordable housing, is, you know, if we just sell it, you know, if the city, let's say the city invests money in a TIF and uses the TIF to build all the infrastructure, so a cost share with the developer to keep the property affordable and keep it down, then we would need to enter into an agreement with the property owner, you know, or get control of that property where we could turn it over to the housing authority who could monitor. So basically, the housing authority would end up owning the land that the house is set on and control the resale of those properties to keep it within the affordable housing threshold so that our investment we don't lose our investment of making affordable housing if somebody lives in it 2 or 3 years and turns around and sells at full market value.
Right.
So they would get like a 2%, you know, growth per year for every year they own the house to keep it within that affordable housing range.
Thank you. That's
I'm
good.
sorry.
And what we need is just that you be thinking about this. We're working on the city side to add a planning specialist or a planner to the city staff because we don't have that. We have different people that have capabilities but not necessarily that duty, and we want to clarify that quite a bit so that we have a planner and we have a longer range plan for neighborhoods and building programs and things that we want and things that Goldendale doesn't want, things of that nature.
Could we look into this as far as the housing authority capacity for the city?
Certainly.
Are we, you know, let's look into it and see where we stand. Are we functioning according to Mid-Columbia housing, let's
Right.
say? Or can we?
Well, you could even, if Mid-Columbia Housing was willing to manage it, they could manage it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, but,
Because they manage most everything else in this area of the gorge.
okay, well, I think we should look into it and see how widespread their authority is, how precise it is. And also, you know, if there's a need for the city of Goldendale to form a housing authority, a branch of it per se.
Right, right. We'll be looking at other cities to see where they are on some of this, because there's certain cities that have extensive planning in place, and it really shows. It shows a much well-organized and very nice functioning community, small, urban, or rural. And that would help us, that we have some handle on what the future of Goldendale is, because from the very beginning that I've been living in Goldendale, it was not box stores, not big, huge things of that nature, but to keep it small in tone and personality as much as size.
Certainly,
So we want to honor that, and this is a way to keep that going,
certainly.
I feel.
And I'd hate to reinvent the wheel, however, I would question any existing housing authority without knowing them too much. But if there's one, there's no affordable housing currently in the whole area.
Exactly.
So I'd like to find out more if we go in that route of one that's already in existence, because I'd like to know what they do.
We might have a presentation in the
It'd be
future.
better off to make our own than to continue with anything that's currently existing and not showing any affordable housing.
And that's a problem throughout our country. Housing is getting so expensive, people are pushed out of it instead of brought into it. That's exactly what we're trying to avoid.
Well, along those lines, what qualifies as affordable housing? Because we do, we've got a development over here on Broadway.
Several, yeah,
We got one on the west end
right,
that are, well, they're subsidized,
right,
but I've always considered those low-income housing.
right.
So I mean,
And they're built for that purpose and managed for that purpose.
Right.
Somebody doesn't jump in that's not qualified.
So either you're very low income or very high income,
Usually it's.
and nothing in the middle.
This is the missing middle.
And this is the missing middle.
for subsidy.
That's what I would say, affordable housing would be, is 80% of the per capita household income.
Oh, what they would have to pay for rent
I'm
or?
sorry, we can't hear you, folks. I apologize.
Yeah, we were just talking about what the percentage would be. It'd be, you know, just a rough guess, 80% of Tucson County median household income would be considered affordable housing. So not 100%. So you'd look at median household income and calculate what 80% of that value is. Or it could be whatever the council sets, if they're controlling the project, of what they feel that number should be.
Okay,
Thank you.
we got some work to do.
Well, it wasn't very long ago, we were presented with a Zoom information about what the city could do to entice developers to come and, you know, I don't remember all the specifics of that, but we made a deal there to do a study, was it? Who remembers that? Do you remember that?
Right.
I remember it, I just can't think of
And
it.
this
Yeah.
should contribute to that
Yeah,
progress.
things that we can do, change to make it enticing for developers to come in and put in.
Well, I
Sensible for
think that's
homeowners.
where you negotiate with, when you're, particularly once we get the TIF in place, anything inside that TIF area is negotiate when a,
That's it, TIF.
yeah.
What does that
Yeah,
stand
we're still
for
working
again?
on that. Actually, we're meeting on that tomorrow.
Yeah, what does that stand for again?
Tax increment
Yeah,
financing.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
So, you know, usually, there's two ways that can work, and it's a negotiable item by the city council every time, where if you're gonna fund 100% of the infrastructure, or portion of an infrastructure, depending on where those numbers are gonna lie, for to get their numbers to work out, so it's good for a contractor or developer to develop. You know, in this case, you know, you could go, let's say, at a lower percentage and say, hey, well, we're willing to pay a higher percentage of the infrastructure cost to a developer if you provide us or give us one or two of those lots, dedicate them to, you know, give them to the city for attainable housing or affordable housing, whatever you prefer, inside the subdivision. And then those could be, and that's what I would recommend, is don't make a whole subdivision of it, spread them out throughout the community.
Right.
And then those lots would become part of that housing authority district to manage. You know, let's say it's a 25 lot subdivision and you get three lots in there, or 2 lots in there, and you kind of spread those out there, so it's not everything's running in a row. And you know, and the other thing you could do is with developers too, which this would need some work with our ordinance again, is to allow in those situations an overlay zone, where you're giving them smaller square footage, so it's called upzoning, saying, okay, we're gonna allow you a smaller footprint property that you can put that house on so they can squeeze more houses in to make it profitable for them, and make the numbers work out. So there's a lot of tools that you guys will have at your disposal to make these work for them.
One of the things we'll have to do is review our own ordinances regarding housing, make sure that it works with development and planning well. I think it's something we can do on the TIF. We had a report, I received an email from Todd Chase, is that? He's already talked to us a couple of times on the tax increment financing. There's 2 ports in the state that have that already as a district, and that's how you format it. And we're trying to do a district in our town. We'll be only the 3rd one in the entire state, so we may be in a place that's harder than what it looks like. Hopefully not. But he's the expert that can help us get through that. Are there any other questions or comments? And I really would appeal to you to look through this and think about what this would look like in Goldendale in the future. We have a beautiful community. We only want to make it more beautiful and more functional. With that, we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, report of officers, and we'll begin with Steve Johnson.
Well, we already discussed the committee meetings a little bit.
Got that.
Now, you commented about tomorrow, and you also said
Every
Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Oh, it's every Tuesday.
After both first committee meetings, then we need to do the TIF map.
Okay, it's every Tuesday. Get that call.
Every Tuesday after the council meeting,
After the council meeting.
or Wednesday, depending on.
Oh, that's right, after Wednesday, yeah, okay. Let me see here. And again, we're getting closer and closer to the end of the year, which means budget time,
Exactly.
budget crunch.
Exactly.
I don't know where the budget committee is at on this, but I've already posed the notion of a budget workshop.
Exactly. It's a good proposal.
At least one, if not a couple.
Yeah.
Would be nice.
Larry is supposed to be in tomorrow and start working with me and Sandy tomorrow, and we were gonna do it last week, but we got so stuck on Byers Street,
Okay.
dealing with some of the residents up there.
Right.
So we should be working with Larry tomorrow and Thursday both on preparing a draft budget for you guys to work from.
Okay. And also, lastly, I understand we're gonna get a brand new council, what do you call this, a desk?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Council table,
A what?
a table?
It would replace this right here. We
Right.
probably would use this in another part of the building for executive session.
Right, and by all accounts, I hear it's a real dandy.
Oh my,
And
yes.
it's a beauty. But to go along with that, I would like to suggest that we look into, now the mayor can appoint a 2-member committee to explore this. But I really feel like we should have a nicely displayed copies of the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights
All these walls.
hanging on these walls
I agree.
someplace.
Yeah, I'd love to have that.
Yeah, I mean, not just something to go down to 99 and get a print, but something
Not the original.
respectable. And no thumbtacks,
Yes, frame, yes.
nicely
But
framed.
it adds a lot whenever you're discussing some of these issues that have to do with the Constitution, to have it right there so people can look at it and understand it.
But we've got plenty of wall,
Yeah, we do.
and I would like to suggest that. And like I said, you can either appoint a couple of people to work with you to
I think
flesh it out, or
I've been looking at doing this for quite a while. I wanted to do it, I just never raised it with the council, but I think we can move on that fairly quickly.
that would really be nice.
Yeah, I'd like to have it up in here.
Thank you.
Appreciate the request.
Thank you.
Very big help.
Yes, all right.
You have it memorized, don't you?
Absolutely.
I do too.
The Constitution.
Good luck. I'm a card player too.
Dave?
Oh, okay, thanks, Mayor. You know, at the last meeting, we talked quite a bit about some of the problems that are going on at our parks with all the vandalism and some things that we are looking into doing, some signage in the parks for no being in the parks at night. You know, and I had a talk with the local librarian, Tara, about their, you know, they face the same problems at the library. I'm sure, Sergeant, you've heard about, responded to lots of problems, finding needles down in the amphitheater, people hanging out there all night. And, you know, I had a meeting with her, she discussed some of the steps that they're trying to work on to make the library so everybody feels safe to go there, you know. And we gotta get ahead of some of this, and she would like to get on the agenda to come to a meeting, you know, to talk about some ideas that we might have to help her out, help the library out. You know, we wanna work in tandem with that library to get things so people all feel safe going there and there's not so much vandalism. She mentioned she would like to put up some signage of no being there at night, and that amphitheater is where the big problems are.
Exactly.
They've already cut off the outdoor power there. That was a part of the problem. People staying there all night for their outlets. So they've cut that out. And if we could get her on the agenda and just really work with them to, you know, make it a good, safe place to be. The library is one of our greatest treasures we have in this town. And anything we can do to support them and work with our law enforcement, extra patrols, whatever they need to cut down on the vandalism, the drug use, all the problems that, you know, I know all our police officers are familiar with that are happening at not only our city parks, but our library also.
Exactly. This will fit into what we're trying to do.
Right.
Exactly.
Dave, if you can have her just give us a call,
Okay.
then that way we can set it up with her.
She mentioned that she might need some approval from the council for signage that they had in mind to put up, being as how that's city property technically. She just wanted to, and maybe get some of our input from our police department on, you know, what might be good to have on that signage to, that could be enforceable, that our police officers could enforce no trespassing at night, especially in that amphitheater at the library where the problems are really happening.
And we'll contact her to find out whether she wants to be on the next city council meeting or the one after, because if she's well prepared, she'll be on the very next agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'll get with her.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes?
With that, the city owns that building, is there funding maybe for more light? Because I know the amphitheater, the trouble we have, you drive by that, you can control it, but unless you get at, actually you have to go up and down in there because it's just this dark hole. So they'll come down there, sit, because the library's left their internet on and the power. If they shut the power off, that's great. We had a meeting this morning about, you know, different city entities that are to shut the power off for outlets, because people will go at 2 o'clock in the morning, plug their phones in, you know, they're scrolling internet, you know, they're hanging out, they're using drugs, whatever, you know, hours of darkness, that kind of attracts them, which is,
Exactly.
I don't know if the city has a way of maybe putting up more lighting on that building.
We can do
I
that.
don't think it's been upgraded they upgraded the inside, which is beautiful, but the outside's kind of been the same with those trees.
The best protection we have is light.
Yeah, and with all those trees, the street lights are great, but even at 100%, the new lights do not light up.
Right.
I mean, us at night, we like daytime lights. You know?
We'll get on that.
Is trespassing an enforceable law
It is on private property.
on city property?
Well, the library's technically not city property. It's owned by the city, but it's rented by the Clark County Fort Vancouver Library.
It's leased,
And
so
so
that makes it even better.
It is up to the library to enforce that. If they put up signs, we can enforce that. They're not they're a public business, but the property itself, they can refuse. They can trespass people from the library. They have that option. They have to go through Clark County, through Fort Vancouver Regional Office. We have a hard time right now getting video footage because we have to go through the Vancouver office. And so there is a little delay for us because they require a little bit more on the west side to get that footage. They don't just freely give that. I know the library here has helped us the best she can with the information with that, but it's still kind of a struggle for us.
Is the equipment somewhere else, or is the equipment here and then they just have policies in place that
No,
delay?
they have the video here, but it has to be retrieved by an IT guy in Fort Vancouver Library in Vancouver. And so there is,
So
we
if
do
they,
have great video there. We
if
have,
they gave access to somebody here on the computer, they should be able to.
yes, they should. And that's kind of up to their own policies of Fort Vancouver Library. And unfortunately, it's not ran by our local library here.
Okay, now you said, you made a comment there, I'm confused. The difference between inside the building and outside the building enforcing trespassing. Is there a difference?
No, they can trespass people from the library.
Right, because they have.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
You've escorted people out of that library.
Yes, I have.
This summer.
And once they tell somebody to leave, they have to leave.
So all they've got to do is post outside, no
If
trespassing.
they have the hours, no trespassing from this time to this time, we should be able to enforce that.
That's what they want to do.
Okay.
And they want to get with us to see,
Okay.
you know, how that signage should read, and maybe, because we're talking about doing that with Econy Park and World War II Park.
Yes.
You know, maybe they could make
Yeah,
it like that's gonna be.
The only catch and consideration that we have to put our foot down for is, aside from approving the signs, which is nice and dandy, sergeant can show up and arrest somebody, but if he has no evidence, if he has no proof that that person was trespassing after hours, and it's just his word, it's gonna be a big case in court to prove that. So if they put up the signs, but they don't change their policies and give the manager here locally access to that video to provide the evidence right away,
Yes.
then it goes nowhere. I mean, we're just creating work for the officers to show up to court empty-handed with no evidence. So just like when they come to your store, you know, you hand over the video within minutes.
Yeah.
With the technology out there,
It's-
they just have to give somebody access and the password to do it. So if we're gonna approve the signs for our officers to do more work, then they need to provide at the same time what they need to do that job.
To succeed, exactly.
You know,
Makes sense.
I think that's gonna be a trade-off, right? We
Right.
help them, but they better be follow up with that.
It's just like in the store if we have a shop at the Century. I mean, I go there and they have the video ready for, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, it's like Vegas. They got enough cameras and, you know, Dave can contest and it helps us. There is no question with that in the court, like Philip said, you know, and it gives us evidence. We can convict on those, and once word gets around, that activity will stop. So.
Anything else, Dan?
No, thank you, man.
Thank you. Ellie?
I have nothing.
Andy?
Well, I had a list of things to talk about, but everything's been answered, so we're good to go.
You're keyed right in.
Yeah.
That's
Feel very good.
I'd just like to follow up on the same conversation with the vandalism and minor crimes going on like that, that I think the signs are great, giving the officers the tools are great, but also we have a limited number of officers that cannot multiply themselves and be at different places. So a lot of that comes back to the community caring enough to report it, and not to say, that's not my problem, I'm staying out of it. You know, if you see something, you should report it. That is what we need to do as citizens if we want to do all this. You know, we can have signs everywhere, but if there's no report that somebody's trespassing and the officer's not there at the time, what's the point, right? So I think that goes hand in hand, and I know 80s, 90s, there was all sorts of programs that the police department does. I think you guys still have neighborhood watch program,
It's
somewhat
a little bit different.
going,
We
you know.
do, we have the signs that we've implemented, we have the DARE program, we had a lot of different community involvements, but now with the shortage of officers, we're working the road a lot more than to be able to break somebody away to get involved in those programs, so it's.
But I think the community can still do, we don't need an officer to show up and tell us how to be a good citizen. You know, we can still do that, so I think that's part of what everybody needs to push to our community is to be a good citizen. You know, you don't have to attend a meeting where an officer tells you, hey, if you see crime, report it and be a witness, and don't walk away and say, hey, that's not my deal. I don't have time to go to court. I don't want to write a statement. You know.
I think before Reggie left for Florida, I think that was an active one that the Goldendale Police Department had developed.
Yeah.
And that puts not 3,500 eyes, but an awful lot of eyes to help in police work and fire safety, all those things.
Yep.
Yep. It's not a sinister thing to be watching for problems like that. It's a good thing.
And we'll see the Be a Good Neighbor campaign for the city of Goldendale, where neighbors kind of, if the neighbor watches their neighbor's house, they know when they're gone. And we do have some of those neighborhoods that are very involved with that, and there's others that are hands off. They will not contact somebody, and it's more and more, people move in, and they're used to the big city where I'm not calling the police for nothing. I'm not putting my name on a statement. And so it's hard to get people to be that good witness to get us evidence we need to convict.
Well, and I think in some of these isolated circumstances that we've already talked about, where the surveillance cameras will help a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the more cameras, we love cameras. I mean, you can't dispute video footage, and it's a great thing. And along with that is good video. I mean, you know, the Dollar General, Century, they have great video. There's a few stores here in town that don't. They may have cameras, but they're not updated and not working. And so it's frustrating to know, and I think the bad guys know which stores they can get away with it and which they can't. And so it's kind of that, and more lighting at night helps the camera systems a lot. I know we miss the cameras in the parks. Coney used to have the cameras. They were not the best, but they were a deterrent. You know, now with them down, people will come to the parks, hang out, they can camp there, and it's, I know it's always about budget and money, and it's expensive to run, but with the technology out there, it's.
But with that same idea, same with neighborhoods, they know what neighborhoods to go to and what neighbors are going to come out and say, hey, you don't belong here. You know. So.
Good. Look into the issue of cameras and lighting both.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
We have to do it.
Yeah.
We have to do it.
That's all I have here.
Thank you, Phil. Milo Wally.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I guess I don't have a specific comment. I think we're coming up with a lot of ideas, and we're busy with the different committees, and we're moving along, and I think we're doing a good job. So,
Good.
anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just
On the mayor's remarks, I want to,
Mike?
I just forgot to mention that they did start the airport project this week, so that's moving forward.
very good.
I was about to ask if we got any updates.
On the mayor's side, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that happened this weekend. Mayor is a part-time job, but when you really look at it, it's 24/7. And you find out every so often something happens that wasn't on the schedule. The mayor either knows about it or needs to be there for it, and that's fine. But I got a call at 7 o'clock Saturday night, just before dark, and it was somebody I knew, and he was out of town. His wife was here with COVID, and children were here, and there was a deer right in their front yard that was suffering and down. I mean, it was foaming at the mouth. It was quite a scary sight, and he wanted to know what we could do to help him. Sergeant Lucatero went and looked at everything, but he couldn't put the deer down because of restrictions on shooting firearms in the city. So he didn't do that. The state Fish and Wildlife were not available. I think either they have staff somewhere else or they weren't open at all. I'm not too sure. And then the highway department out here, the same way, they had somebody that could look at it. Because normally what the highway department does and what these services are usually for a deer hit by a car. They pull it off the road and it basically lays there somewhere and disappears eventually. But this was in a homeowner's yard. It wasn't his fault that the deer was sick. It wasn't his fault that the deer decided it was going to die there. And the thing is, with that deer, there was no way to know what the disease was that it was dying from. Extremely dangerous for anybody to be around that whatsoever without the right protection, without the right equipment. The deer was moved sometime Saturday night, I believe, by somebody from the highway department that had the equipment and knowledge of it, and it was taken away. But I think the same as when we have the complaints about deer in the gardens. I'm trying to work a message both to set it up with our county commissioners and our city council, the two together, because you can't have deer in Goldendale without Clickatack County and all of them that range there as well. And so it's a thing that we both need to work on to solve. And I think we need to find out what has to be done, if there's equipment that can help that be done, and who could be authorized to do it. Because you don't want a civilian or a child going out to even look at that deer, because very often an animal looks dead and it's not anywhere near dead, and you can get hurt really bad. And if it's diseased, it's even worse than that. So we need to be aware of these things. We're going to have it because we have deer all over this town, and some of them are pretty sad looking and some are just gorgeous. But the ones that don't look good are usually not healthy and could be a public health hazard. And that's why we're trying to get a handle on this. And that's all I have, but I think we really need to do all we can to address this, because it's not the homeowner's fault. I don't want them in my yard, but if it dies there, I don't know what else any of us would be to get rid of it and do something. With a fire ban, we can't do any cremations or anything. So it's something we need to try to find a solution, and I'll be probably talking about this from time to time, if we can find solutions. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Anybody here for public comment? Terry Luth.
Terry Luth, 116 North Chatfield. Pat, you took me away right just before I was getting up here. It's 2 weeks short of 9 years before I finally seen the first stuff going on at the airport. I was up there today. They were building the forms.
You have no idea the hours and hours of discussions to get all the hoops jumped.
I've been to a lot of meetings for that.
It's
But
terrible.
we need to assist that company. They've got a little tiny track hoe out there, and they think they're gonna dig through that airport.
So, with that topic, we've offered, if they request our assistance today, that we would go out there, and at this point, they have not asked, so.
They glued some lines and stuff on that track hoe that they have out there. Ty Ross had like a 346 out there and could barely get through it with a jackhammer.
Yeah.
So to put that stuff in, somebody's gonna need to discuss with them.
Yeah, they gotta go 18 inches down to get to the base that they need.
Yeah, they're not gonna go 5 inches, was what they got.
That's what I understand today. Doug was reporting back earlier today that they were having difficulty, and he offered to assist them. But they have not.
I called Ty as soon as I saw the stuff up there and was talking with the people. He said that he'd assist too. But he was in Yakima at the time. He couldn't look out his window and see it. But thank you all for everything that's been done up there, but we got a long ways to go, Dave.
Right.
Mylon.
Right, we're working at it.
Yeah, baby steps.
Anyone else here for public comment? Anybody online for public comment? Don't believe there is.
Someday I'd write it.
But not tonight.
Not today.
We'll hold you to that.
Well, we need a motion to adjourn, if you want to adjourn. So
I'll second.
moved and seconded to adjourn city council for September 19th.
Who was first?
Pardon me?
Annie?
Yeah. And Ellie was second.
Oh, I thought we stayed invisible for
All in favor of adjournment?
Recording
Aye.